Hello, hello, Edison Oliveira here. This is the first of what I hope to be many DNN Summit 2018 talks. And the first one to get us started will be with some of the organizing members of the event. But before I get to you guys, I want to send my congratulations to Mitchell Sellers for his new baby, Graham Sellers. He was just born yesterday, November 1st, so he was not able to make to this call because you know what? He is busy with diapers. He's changed diapers. He's going through sleepless nights. I know the pain, Mitchell. I can, empathize with what you're going through, but stay safe, stay sound, and you'll come out stronger on the other side. That's my spiel for Mitch.
And don't fly any airplanes when you're sleepy, right?
no sleepwalking. No sleepwalking. No. Don't try to pilot those planes. But let's start by talking about the organization. I'd like to talk a little bit about the DNN Summit organization because it was formed about I guess over a year ago, about a year ago. My first question, Cassidy, will be to you. What has changed within the organization from 1 year ago up to now? What has changed there?
So a group of, I think, about 9 of us got together and we wanted to create a little bit more structure around the conferences that had been going on in the community and felt like a committee would stabilize that and be able to, transfer and replicate some of the efforts across locations. So we decided to form a nonprofit organization called the DNN Association that would oversee the implementation of what then we coined DNN Summit, which used to be a DNN Con. And so in that year's time, we put on our first conference in Denver in 2017, into January or February, beginning of February. And since we've kind of minimize the board just to keep it simple. So we're currently on the board, myself, Clint, and Mitch, but we still have actively involved, and I'm probably going to forget some names, but Ryan Moore, Don,
Joe.
Who else am I forgetting? It is a couple probably. Anyways, I try to forget because last year was a lot of communication and a little painful to get started. But so we have it kind of narrowed down. Our documents are filed. We have a structure. We have bank accounts set up. We have 1 year under our belt, and now we're kind of replicating that process and trying to improve upon it and grow it and reach more people to attend the conference.
So Clint, is it becoming easier now? I mean, as compared to the first time, what has become easier now then?
Yeah, so that is a good question. We hosted 2 conferences in Charlotte previously under the model of like whatever city is hosting it, they just do, whatever they want to do. And so now that we have structures and processes in place, I want to say that it's, easier. Right now, it's obviously we're repeating the event in Denver. So it's just kind of, we've already got the blueprint. So we just kind of repeat it. I think when we really will be able to tell if the processes and structures will be when we host it like in a new city, potentially with a new community member. So I think it's getting better. We went to pay per call this year for the call for speakers. That gave us a lot more exposure. And as far as like letting speakers know where we're at in the process, that they've been accepted, things like that. And even just rating them like internally, like stuff you would never see from the outside. For us, it was a lot easier. So I think that was a good move. And, it's easier to manage speakers. So yeah, I think it is getting easier and better, and we will be able to tell more in time.
Let me ask another question to you, Clint. How is, your role with DNN Summit now being back at DNN Corp? I mean, is that, I would ask, is there a conflict? Not conflict, but does it become tougher, your job, or easier?
Right, yeah, so it's a good question, right? So I am currently the president of the DNN Association, right? And we have board members, just as Cassidi denoted. But the whole kind of vision behind all that is not that like one person gets in one place and stays there forever. You know, we want to cycle people in and out, including the president and board members over time. And so with me going back to DNN Corp, like before we announced it, I scheduled a meeting with Cassidi and Mitchell. And I was like, hey, as of tomorrow, you're going to hear some news. And just so you know, I'm going back to DNN Corp. And I said, if this makes a conflict of interest, then I'm happy to step aside. Also happy to continue to help out. So I think what we're doing right now is just kind of pushing through this conference, and then we're going to revisit that issue. So, you know, I don't know that it's a huge conflict of interest, but I will let the, you know, outside people, you know, determine that. And if they feel it is, then I'm happy, you know, to contribute in whatever way I can. But now there are positives, because I kind of can see a bigger picture of, you know, what's going on with core, you know, things that are kind of in the works, as well as what's going on with DNN Summit and what would be great things to maybe announce at DNN Summit or do at DNN Summit. So, so it's kind of a two-edged knife or sword, or however you want to say it. So, I'm just here, you know, to help and serve the community, and, you know, hopefully it's not a big deal. But the only negative for me is that I actually won't be at DNN Summit. I am going to pull a Mitchell Sellers and also hopefully have a baby actually the week of DNN Summit. So,
so did you plan that ahead of time? I mean, did you go to that extent?
That's what I said. Excuse out of there. He's like, I don't want to be there. I don't want to do the work.
Right. Yeah. So I just like cheer from the sidelines and say, yeah, y'all handle all the last minute drama. But no, it was not planned that way, but it'll be the first year in a long time for me without a DNN conference. I'll be there in spirit, and I'll be on the, you know, hashtag stream as much as possible, and maybe, you know, changing diapers or something.
Okay. So get ready.
And I just want to add to that is I've actually enjoyed having Clint as part of DNN Corp, you know, because I really think it's created a better connection with Corp. And so when we need something or need help, I feel like we're getting, you know, a little bit better exposure through Corp and out to their clients and customers. And then he has kind of the inside track. So if we need to track somebody down, we're there 5 steps sooner than we were before. So it makes us more efficient as an organization, because we have a direct connection.
Yeah, you have access now, and hopefully that access will not be cut anytime soon. Anyway, next point here, I'd like to ask about the fact that now the event has been extended for an extra day, so there will be 2 full days of speakers there. What is the goal behind that, Cassidi, if I may ask?
So last year when we had our call for speakers, we had to cut a lot of good sessions, and that was difficult for us. And we felt that we had good content there to extend it to a second day. We also felt like the conference was really well received. And by creating a 2-day event, it would be more substantial and potentially more justifiable expense for people to, you know, go to their bosses and say, hey, I can go here and get, you know, potentially 3 days of training in the application, take more away. And it was a less of an in and out type of situation. So those were kind of our 2 drivers there. Was we wanted to really kind of boost the fullness of the conference. And we also wanted to give opportunity for all the great content that we've been seeing to be able to have that presented.
Got it. Clint, I see so many new faces, and again, not necessarily related to DNN. I have listed about 7 people that I haven't seen the DNN space. They are not from the DNN space. I mean, it's marketers and technology-wise as well, but not necessarily related to DNN. Again, what is the idea of expanding to that far? I could see very, I would say, far-fetched type of topics that are that of course it's somehow related to DNN because DNN, it's a website engine, it's a CMS, but again, it goes a little bit off tangent here. So what is the idea of expanding that far the type of contents that will be presented during the event?
Right. So that's a good question. So when you see those people at the conference, those are really the ones that we need to hand the Kool-Aid to, right? So that they can start drinking the DNN Kool-Aid and we can get them into the ecosystem. So, we tried to have topics that are relevant for everybody, whether you're a hardcore developer, been in the community forever, or a business user or a marketer. One thing that we instantly noticed when we went to the pay-per-call solution that I mentioned earlier was that a lot more submissions, started coming in from people we have never heard of or seen. So it was a great move for exposure. And so, a lot of those people that submitted, we turned down some good speakers. I mean, well-known people that go around doing TEDx type stuff, just higher events. So we pulled in some that we thought would be beneficial to the people that attend Summit, like we say, regardless of the subject matter that you may be interested in. Because one thing that is challenging is that, each hour or time slot in the conference, you want to have something there for everybody. You don't want somebody to feel like, well, there's nothing I really want to go to this, hour. So, we try to get in new blood and new topics because as much as we might not think about it, but people get tired of, well, I'm going to hear Clint talk again about whatever. And, to just see new faces and new topics. So Cassidi, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, just one of our other goals kind of as an association and putting on the conference is to help grow the DNN ecosystem. And we're not going to do that by just continuing to talk to each other. So we feel like we had to, with the ability to turn it into a 2-day platform, we weren't decreasing the saturation of DNN content, we're actually increasing it. But it also gave us the opportunity to bring some outside voices to potentially even the conference and almost make it a bit more of a technology conference. So if someone wasn't sold on the DNN platform yet, they were just interested in learning about it, they still felt justified in attending because they would get information that applied to no matter what platform they were using for their business model. So it's a way for us to connect with potentially new audience members and new users and introduce them to the DNN Kool-Aid, as Clint likes to call it. So, and some of these folks, if you do some research, they have pretty strong backgrounds in their speaking paths. And I think it'll be very interesting, entertaining to listen to some of them.
So I'll be curious to know those speakers that are, not within the ecosystem already, were they reached by an outreach initiative from the group, or they came in and they saw somehow and you guys had exposure and they came forward and they volunteered themselves? So how was that process? Just tell me a little bit about that.
So some of them I stalked on Twitter and I drew pictures of them. And I was like, hey, come to our conference. Here's a picture of you speaking at our conference, so we did have some social outreach. Again, the pay-per-call was pretty good. And then just word of mouth, personal relationships with people, telling them, hey, submit. The DNN ecosystem or community members tend to wait until the last minute to submit sessions, to even register. So, there's a lot of, I don't want to say nagging that has to go on, but we'll say encouragement that has to occur in order to get people to actually submit the session. So I think it was a combination of a lot of things.
Got it. Okay, so I'd like to transition a little bit. And because Cassidi is here and Cassidi is presenting 3 sessions, I would like to dive a little bit deep into those 3 sessions. But before I do that, is there anything else about the event in general that you guys would like to, to push forward? Anything else in addition to what we have discussed already?
Well, so one change that I would mention is that it's during the week and then the slopes are on the weekend, which previously all of our conferences have kind of been like either Friday, Saturday or Saturday. So that's just a note to mention.
Got it. Is there any, sorry, Cassidi, is there any special pricing right now going on in terms of hotel rates or things like that that has a deadline?
So we do have a room block, which is quite a significant savings through the Embassy Suite where the location is. And we have so many rooms that we've blocked out. And so once we've gone through those, then the rate can go up and you may not be guaranteed a rate. I did learn from last year that it's a very busy hotel. So we were able to add some room blocks as they filled up, but then we got to a certain point where they weren't available and some people did have to stay off location. And Embassy Suites was a great location. You get your breakfast there and then they do a happy hour in the, I don't know, afternoon, evening with some food and drinks. And that's all part of your room on top of everything that you already get at the conference. So I would encourage people to at least book their rooms. And for our sanity, to go ahead and book your attendance to the conference, just so we know, because as Clint mentioned, everybody's kind of last minute. And we did not do an early bird this year, we sort of did. We have a threshold, and I forget the date, but I think it's right after the first of the year, the price goes up. And that's mainly because for us, we really need those numbers ahead of time to get swag ordered and food ordered and all that kind of stuff. So if you can try to do it either before the end of the year, or if you need to push it into the next fiscal year, do it right away, on New Year's Day. And then I did want to mention a little bit about the schedule, which we'll be getting up and on the website here shortly. But since this is a 2-day event, what we're looking at for some of our après social hours, we'll do our training day. And then that evening we'll do our welcome party. And so that we'll have our speaker sponsor dinner prior to that, and then invite everybody to kind of attend our welcome reception. And then the next day we'll do a full day of events. And that evening we're going to kind of leave open for people to network, go to dinner with people they met, etc. And then the following final day, we will do another kind of après party as a closing social hour. And then the next day we'll head up to DNN on the slopes, which will be similar format to last year, where the first day we'll do tubing and happy hour. And then the following day, skiing or snowmobiling or just going around town, whatever floats your boat. And then people will be returning back on Sunday. So we did kind of shift, like Clint said, our days to keep it all within a week, not spilling over into the next week if you attended the social and on the slopes. And then we did just secure Andy to do our keynote. And so that information will be getting up there as well. But we're excited to have the new energy and new enthusiasm into the DNN space. And I think that he'll be a great person for everybody kind of to hear from and see the new direction of DNN.
Got it. And just to clarify, that's Andy Treba, the new CEO of DNN Corp. Now, what about After Dark? Is that at the end of the second full day of sessions? Is that happening?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't live, but the DNN After Dark will be the social hour after the second full day. So the only thing that is a little different is that first day we're not going to have anything afterwards, but we discussed that internally if we felt that was we should do that or shouldn't. And everybody's so busy, and there's often times where it's like, oh, I wish I would have got to talk to that person or been able to go out to dinner with these folks and give some people some networking time. So we decided that would be a good opportunity just to leave open to either have some downtime or networking time. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of people hanging out in the hotel lobby bar area and networking as well.
Got it. If I may ask for one thing, Cassidi, is make sure that you have the same weather as we had this year, because the weather was awesome, was great.
I agree.
I know you cannot guarantee that, unfortunately. Okay, good. By the way, Clint, if you want to chime in, I'm gonna probe a little bit here, Cassidi, about her sessions. But let's start with Lead Generation 101, Cassidi. Are we talking about lead generation in general? That's one of your sessions. So is that for a particular industry? Is that lead generation in general? Is that tell a little bit about that session.
Yeah, so I really believe that lead generation in the digital sense is the next wave or push of digital marketing. And the focus of that is really to maximize your return on investment. So people are spending money on Google pay-per-click, on Facebook ads, on e-newsletters, print campaigns, whatever it may be. But are they actually capturing any information from that person if they're not taking an action in terms of purchasing something or inquiring? So what lead generation is the, encouraging, continuing that relationship with the dollars that you've already spent with your traditional digital marketing. And so we'll go through kind of the concepts of that, the benefits, and how that affects your return on investment with some statistics, and walk through concepts and ideas in terms of how to capture email addresses, how you track somebody on your website, how you get more granular in your messaging so you customize your communications back to those leads in a more funneled manner. So we'll kind of walk through the whole concept of what lead generation is and how you take advantage of that to maximize your initial investments from an advertising perspective.
Awesome. Also, just to add a little bit of a mix here, because it's just the three of us, I want to take the opportunity to, talk a little bit about my full day training there. And I was hoping to have Ryan here, Ryan Moore, but he's not around. So I just want to give a little preview, my 2 cents here on what the full day training will be about. If you are just getting started on DNN, if you are an admin user or a content editor, or you are just getting started, you might be better off to go to Ryan's session, Ryan Moore. He is doing an intro to DNN. That's a full day track there. However, if you have some experience with DNN, but want to get a better sense of what else can be done, what are some of the advanced features that you have available on DNN, what are some of the obscure, features and mechanisms that you have available in DNN, talking about upgrades, talking about troubleshooting. That's what my session will be about. It's about DNN administration. It's about the more advanced features of DNN. We're not going to be covering the basics. We'll be covering a little bit more advanced. So if you're looking for basics on DNN administration, go to intro on DNN with Ryan Moore. If you are an existing user of DNN and you want to see some of the more advanced stuff, you can come to my training, to my full day training session. So just want to give my 2 cents there. Let me go back to you once again, Cassidi. Your 2 other sessions are basically about PPC. Is that correct that AdWords has been renamed to PPC Search Network? Is that what I get? Is that correct?
Yeah, well, it is under AdWords, but their kind of suite of products is the pay-per-click search network. So it kind of either or. But yeah, I mean, I still would refer it to as AdWords, but I wanted to make sure people didn't associate AdWords with just the search network. And so that's why I labeled that a little bit broader with the pay-per-click suite of products.
Got it.
Because that's what we'll be going over.
I see. So you're saying that AdWords is not the only element of the search network on Google. What else? What are the other elements of that?
So within the AdWords is a platform that you use to kind of set up your, ads and things. And so the suite of products that are within the AdWords umbrella are, you have your search network, which is your traditional, you go to Google, you search something and ads pop up. Then you have your display network, which are ads that follow you through other websites that allow Google to push ads onto their sites, and they get a little kickback for that. And then you have your shopping network. So if you go and Google something, you often see some items pop up if it's shopping related. So if I Google red sweater, I might see some red sweaters in my search, but then I can actually go into the shopping network. And so within there's ad opportunities. And then you have YouTube. And that's, in my opinion, one of the most underutilized best opportunities for people. But there's a lot of advertising opportunities within that, and it doesn't have to be a video. There's ad opportunities as well. And then you have your mobile, which sounds redundant, but that really more references mobile apps and pushing advertising into there and doing some native advertising as well, where it actually just shows up within the app content. And it's almost seamless, and you don't really realize that it's an ad inside the app.
Got it. So what you're saying is that advertisement on YouTube at this point in time, it falls under the same platform, the same, I would say, the same setup, the same interface from a Google point of view?
Correct. Yeah. So that's all under the AdWords interface.
Got it.
And that's where I feel like people don't maybe even know that, or they're not aware of how it functions. So I wanted to be careful about how I labeled that session and get people to realize that there's a suite of products that they might not be aware of. The last one that I forgot to mention was Gmail. And there's a lot of advertising opportunity within Gmail as well. And people don't even know that that's an opportunity. So we'll be going through each of those and discussing the different types of advertising you can do. And then time allow, which usually doesn't happen, but we might get into some of the actual AdWords interface in terms of what's the difference and how would I select to set up a YouTube ad versus a search ad. And we'll go through some of those basics so people can understand how they use that interface to engage in the different products.
So I would assume that the bulk of marketing budget that you personally deal with as, at 10 Pound Gorilla, is that still going towards, the bulk of it still going towards Google properties, Google stuff?
For most of the clients that we manage in paid, advertising space, it's either Facebook advertising or the Google pay-per-click suite. And within that suite, we're heavier. If they're an e-commerce platform, then yes, in the shopping network, but excluding the e-commerce type things, probably doing more search, display, and then a lot in YouTube there. And if their budget's deep enough, looking at some of the Gmail and mobile opportunities.
Got it. Any question, Clint? I mean, now that you are the ecosystem manager, I mean, you should be looking at those stuff beyond, DNN technical stuff,
That's right. No, I was looking over your shoulder as Cassidy was talking, and over Cassidy's shoulder here, and I noticed the Yeti, and I realized that I forgot to mention that there may be a Yeti remix at DNN Summit this year. If you remember the DNN Yeti song last year that Ron Miles wrote, which was awesome, I was thinking, we probably should mention that somewhere. So I don't take you off the subject, but that was what I was thinking about while Cassidy was talking. But yeah, no, I mean, I didn't even think about advertising inside of Gmail. It's kind of a interesting concept.
It is. Again, I haven't thought about that. Cassidy, let's wrap this up here. And I like to wrap things up with the one thing here. And you have three things, but you have three sessions. So I just want to briefly get your one thing for each one of those. Lead Generation 101, what is your one thing there? What's one thing that people leave that knowing about?
My goal there is to really have people understand that they need to do full circle digital marketing in order to maximize the return on investment, and that, spending money to drive traffic to your website, that's great. But if you're not somehow continuing and extending that relationship, you're really missing huge opportunity from an investment perspective. So I hope I give people the tools to go back and start to increase their return on investment.
Awesome. A deep dive into Google PPC search network. What's one thing there?
So the deep dive into the search, I feel like there's a lot of nuances that people are unaware of. So although their campaigns may be working for them, they're not near as optimized. So again, kind of going back to that return on investment and figuring out how they can fine tune and tweak their implementations to ensure that they're paying as little as possible and reaching the right folks and encouraging the correct clicks and discouraging the incorrect clicks. And just giving them, again, the tools and resources to make sure that they can optimize those campaigns.
Awesome. And the third one, digital marketing with the Google PPC suite.
With that one, I just want to create awareness of opportunities out there because they're in those less popular ones, YouTube, Gmail. There's just really a great opportunity to pay almost nothing for some great advertising and really increase engagement and connect with people on a different, more personal level.
I will be joining all three of those. I love it. I love your sessions. Okay, sure. Great. So one thing of each one of those sessions, that's okay. Just a call to action here. if you are a speaker in the DNN Summit, you will be invited to join those talks, and I'll be booking a weekly talk from now until mid to end December. So we're gonna have about 6 conversations like that. So you have opportunity to talk and discuss and promote your session and your one thing that you want people to leave your session knowing about. You should be hearing from the committee, you should be hearing from us at some point to invite you to book a spot. So if you see that note, please book, because we're gonna have just 4 or 5 slots per session, and they will run out very quickly because we have too many speakers now. And yeah, that's about it. Anything else that you guys want to know before we close?
I just want to thank you, Addison, for taking the time to give DNN Summit the exposure and awareness, and really appreciate it.
Let me tell you one thing, Cassidy. I promised myself last year that, okay, no way I'm gonna do this again. But I think that you guys put something in the water there in Denver that I said, oh, I have to do this again. I'm addicted to this. I have to do this again. So I could not resist not doing this. I love doing this. It's my pleasure. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.